waves rolling in. Sand is surfing, let the truth begin.
Diving deep where others fear to go. Promago fire, putting on a show. Sammy's dancing left and right, he spins. Aloha spirit, that's where it begins.
Hey, hey, Santa, ride that silver wave. Sammy grooving, nothing left to say. Banks are shaking, squeezes feeling tight. First lady shining in a silver dress bright.
Trumps returning, victory inside. Beach broadcast booming every day and night. Aloha joy,
Hold that dream so high.
Aloha, it's Anna Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Sunday, March 22nd, 2026. I know that we're going to have a lot of big news coming up, so I wanted to go ahead and do this report, and it is on Bob Mueller. Thanks so much for joining us on Locals, as well as joining as a subscriber on X. My shows can be found here on YouTube, and then the day after on Rumble. There's tons of financial related news that's coming up, so I hope to have a podcast on that later this week, but I did want to go ahead and let you know about GOLDCO. They are one of our sponsors, and they are a precious metals IRA company, along with they sell gold and silver coins. They're full ounces. I actually have some myself. So contact GOLDCO. They'll take care of the entire transition for you behind the scenes. Many people have actually contacted GOLDCO over the last few weeks simply because they have seen the surge of silver and gold. And so they'll take care of your whether it's your retirement account or your 401k account, and convert it over to actual physical silver or gold. You can also get up to $10,000 in free silver. Again, contact GOLDCO. They'll answer any question you have on this. The link is santasurfinglikesgold.com. Our show is also sponsored by Meta247 Now, which provides ivermectin and fenbendazole. They're separate, but you can order either ivermectin and or fenbendazole from this company. All you have to do is dial the number 888-749-0261. That's 888-749-0261. They are offering for any ivermectin order. And again, all their ivermectin pills are 12 milligram, not 6 milligram pills. And there's no doctor's note and no form to fill out. Just simply make the phone call. But they are offering 2 free blister packs, which is a $35 value for any order. So contact Meta247 by going to meta247now.com or scanning the QR code or calling 888-749-0261. I'm just giving fair warning. I'm going to be very blunt and very bold in this podcast. I want to cover some things that many of us have been covering over the last 9, 10, 11 years. Well, actually, mostly since 2017, so it would be the last 9 years. But Mueller, I want to kind of cover a lot about the dirt on Mueller. He's gone. There was an FBI document about his involvement with Seth Rich, the 9/11 cover-up, so much more. And then there's President Trump's very blunt post on Mueller's passing. And this meme is, he did bad things and protected bad people. Pretty much that sums up this whole podcast, but I want to give you a lot more details. To start it off, he was the FBI director from September 4th, 2001 through 2013. September 4th, that's just 1 week before 9/11. If you're new to my show, you can click on a lot of these images. It'll take you to the actual article, post, or the post. Mueller was the director when 9/11 attacked. He had been sworn in 1 week before. The attacks profoundly shaped his tenure, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to get into too much detail because I'm going to go ahead and share my deep dives on this. I am going to go a little squirrel because I try to cover as much as I can for this podcast. But I asked this, why didn't Mueller investigate the massacre of 9/11? I'm going to call it a massacre because he would be investigating his buddies and the president of the United States at that time, George W. Bush, which is another one of his buddies. Here's an article about court documents show Mueller involved in 9/11 cover-up. Guys, again, I know 9/11 was several years ago, 25 years ago. That's when I actually got red-pilled and woke up. But why didn't he do anything as an FBI director? Why didn't he see all the evidence you all were sharing and exposing? Why didn't he actually do anything about that, right? Back then. Not as special prosecutor, but as FBI director. 9/11 happened to occur at the same time that the Bush's buddies, the Enron folks, were getting investigated for their criminal activity, their energy crimes. Well, that scandal broke and the investigation began just before 9/11. So the news focused on 9/11 and not the Enron scandal. But what happened is these executives ultimately did they were found guilty. One ended up taking his own life because he didn't want to go ahead and go to, the clink. Dick Cheney, he lied, and George Bush, they lied about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq as a pretext to war. They caused 4,500 American deaths, 30,000 wounded, 174,000 Iraq civilians and combatant deaths, and violated Geneva Convention laws for torture, leaving the taxpayers of American taxpayers with a bill of $1.7 trillion. Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton, but left with $20 million severance deal to become the vice president. He kept his stocks valued at $6.9 million. Cheney's, at this time, he was still alive. His estimate was worth $90 million. But Halliburton, it was a no-bid contract. Halliburton was immediately selected to go ahead and rebuild Iraq. Halliburton profited $39.5 billion from the war through a no-bid contract. So the greedy warmonger gave up American lives to become more wealthy. And again, his daughter, Liz Cheney, she was also pushing for wars because they know it lines pockets. And why didn't Mueller do anything about that? Prior to 9/11, the day before, Donald Rumsfeld made an announcement saying that there is $2.3 trillion missing on September 10th of 2001. And of course, what happened the day after was the 9/11 massacre. Again, why didn't Mueller do anything about this? And what about their buddies, Larry Silverstein, who actually months before 9/11, 9/11, the World Trade Center's lease was sold to Larry Silverstein. Silverstein took out an insurance plan that covered terrorism. After 9/11, Silverstein took the insurance company to court, and he ultimately won $4.5 billion as his reward, if you will, won in court. Okay, then Silverstein, he said, quote unquote, "I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire." This is in Building 7, and back in 9/11, and that smaller building. And as in, we've had such a terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse. Pull what? The trigger? The explosions? The bomb? The detonator? That's what I kept thinking. Why did he say that? Remember also, this is George Bush. In 2016, he was commemorating 5 years of 9/11. Listen to what he says here. He actually mentions explosives.
Pause to mark the 5th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. The information that the Central Intelligence Agency has obtained by questioning men like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has provided valuable information and has helped disrupt terrorist plots, including strikes within the United States. For example, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed described the design of planned attacks on buildings inside the U.S. and how operatives were directed to carry them out. That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people. He told us the operatives had been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping. He told us the operatives had been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people trapped above from escaping.
George Bush is very convincing that he saw the first plane strike the World Trade Center the morning of 9/11 on regular TV. He provides supporting details, has repeated the story, and never retracted it. It has run on the White House website.
According to the official White House version, it was at this moment in a Florida classroom that Bush learned the second plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the U.S. was under attack. But here's what George Bush himself said almost 3 months later when asked about September 11th.
Well, Jordan, you're not going to believe what state I was in when I heard about the terrorist attack. I was in Florida. And my chief of staff, Andy Card, well, actually I was in a classroom talking about a reading program that works. And was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on. I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot.
And the second clip is how he actually lied about where he was when 9/11 happened. The Three Amigos, Obama, Comey, and Mueller, this is a book called The Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. It's written by Andrew McCarthy. Again, you can read this. There's an article linked to that as well. Obama was involved in the Mueller investigation, meaning Obama meddled in the middle of the investigation. You can read this article. This is actually written by the Huffington Post, which is left-leaning. Trump suggests Obama was involved in Mueller's investigation. Again, you can go ahead and read it. You decide on everything that I put out there. You decide. Do your own research. Another one here is Trump allies hit Mueller on relationship with Comey. So they had, again, Comey takes, he gets fired by Trump, but I'll get to that in a moment. But the relationship between the two. So how did Comey, was he meddling in the middle of when Mueller was going through his special prosecution? This right here says Trump, this is at the same article from The Hill, I'm being investigated for firing the FBI director. But here it is. President Trump's legal team is zeroing in on the relationship between Comey and Mueller to argue that their long professional partnership represents a conflict of interest that compromises Mueller's integrity. Well, Mueller and integrity shouldn't be in the same sentence, but anyway, that compromises Mueller's special counsel investigation. What was very difficult at that time is while you and I were trying our best back in 2017, trying our best to get out on social media, to start sharing the truth, to start sharing truth bombs, that was when Jack Dorsey's Twitter was in existence, and you would get deleted, suspended, and banned from Twitter forever. And it was a way for them to censor the truth because the media was not reporting, the far left media that dominated the airwaves. They weren't reporting any of this stuff that you and I were putting out there. Here's another article about Mueller. Comey made the FBI a threat to democracy, lost public trust in its agents, and clouded Trump's presidency. This is a former agent. His name is Mike German. He talks about FBI under Mueller undermined public confidence in justice while James Comey nearly destroyed it completely. This is according to Mike German's new book. He also writes that Mueller wanted to remake the FBI in his own image with no room for dissent. That would sound like more like a Hillary Clinton FBI because she would just not take anything, any resistance or questions. Mueller's FBI silenced whistleblowers. The attacks on 9/11 justified unleashing the FBI from traditional and legal and moral restraints in order to prevent the follow-up attacks that predicated. Upon the request of FBI under Mueller, Congress loosened the FISA Act, meaning the FBI could father information that about anyone it deemed relevant. So they're just going ahead and changing FISA rules willy-nilly. Is it likely that the looser rules would have helped Mueller during his investigation as special counsel when Comey was the FBI director? And then Mike German again claims Comey breached the cardinal rule of the FBI by commenting on Trump's uncharged behavior in regards to the 2016 election. And then German writes the FBI has systematic problems left unchecked, make the Bureau a threat to the very democracy it was intended to serve. Again, Mueller did nothing. He protected his buddies. And it gets a little bit more deeper into that. I'll get to that in just a second. And then Mueller probe snares a White House aide, but not one of Trump's. It was an Obama aide who he got charged with foreign lobbying investigation. Charges stem from the special investigation. Of course, the news didn't want to report that because it was an Obama crony, not a Trump person. And the Craig lawyers maintains his innocence. And then the investigation into Craig was brought about by Mueller investigation. So you can imagine the swamp was really ticked off thinking, hey, we got a swamp rat doing he's a special counsel for the Russian hoax. and he is going to find all this dirt on Trump, right? Well, part of the reason why they wanted to impeach, they were finding anything. Did Trump pull a mattress tag? They were to impeach him. President Trump, one of the reasons they tried to impeach him, again, this is where I'm bouncing back and forth, but I'll eventually come full circle. President Trump, dirty politicians, they were claiming, this is back in 2019, they were claiming that Trump was making secret phone calls to Ukraine, Zelensky. Here's a transcript. He was congratulating Zelensky. This is the president. Well, I agree with you about your country, and I look forward to it. When I owned Miss Universe, they always had great people. Ukraine was always well represented. When you're settled in and ready, I'd like to invite you to the White House. We'll have a lot of things to talk about, but we're with you all the way. Zelensky's response is, well, thank you for the invitation. We accept your invitation. Look forward to the visit. Thank you again. The whole team and I are looking forward to this visit. Thank you again for the congratulations. And I think it will still be great if you could come and be with us in this important inauguration. The results are incredible, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't a sneaky phone call. It was Trump inviting him to the White House. President Trump turned out he was exonerated and found innocent after the special counsel Mueller investigation was done. President Trump, so Mueller, the public announcement is that he bit the dust, he's gone, bye-bye. And President Trump posted this: Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad to see he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump. Il Donato posted this: nobody voted for, please play nice, sir. You're either MAGA or FAGA. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The Il Donato account is President Trump's backup account. Now, I will say this, that people, the FAGAs, the fake MAGAs, were freaking out about this. And I will say, I'm going to stand behind Trump. All right, because a warrior doesn't go out there and say, oh, do a little opera clap, or President Trump has been very cordial about other swamp people that have bit the dust. He's been very kind, very cordial, but apparently he knows something a lot more that the public eye would reveal, such as this. Again, that's why I preface this podcast with, I'm going to be very blunt and bold. A lot of people are not going to agree with me. That's fine. I get it. We're not always here to agree with each other, but I just want you to, I wanted to enlighten you on what's really going on. Let's peel the onion layers and find out what's really going on. Julie Blue posted this. I didn't know about this. All right. The FBI documents say Mueller had hired the hitman who killed Seth Rich. Check this out, guys. This is coming from the FBI vault. So you can click on those images. It will take you to her post for the first one. The second image is taking you right to the FBI vault. Seth Rich, part 1. Now let me just go right here. I'm going to go start with page 130. All right, so there's page 130 right there. All right, so how you can go there is just go to pages, and then just go to page 130. Okay, she started with page 134, but 130 was pretty eye-opening. So let me go here. All right. So we have here, it is from RSMSC on August 30th, 2018, right in the middle of the special counsel investigation. Pedophile Bob Mueller sent Seth Rich hitman after Manafort lawyer. And pedophile Mueller sent the same hitman he used on Seth Rich to help his friend Hillary. Okay, so again, some of this is redacted. Then we scroll down to the next pages. The subject is Mueller's crooked lawyers investigating judge and jury. And then this responses also, and their extended families. Mueller, who attempted the assassination of Seth Rich through his mafia friends, is a psychopath capable of any crime. And then we go to the next page. Forward, Mueller had Seth Rich murdered. Okay, and that was back in 2018. He had the means and the motive and intel. All right, now guys, this is so horrible. And then the subject is, we think Mueller planned the execution of, and then it's finished, Seth Rich. Mueller has access to plenty of hitmen who owe him and ready cash. And that old bean counter Mueller is a rabid Trump hater and one of the most despicable human beings. Then we go to the next page. We think Mueller arranged the hit on Seth Rich and knows Hitman better. Who knows Hitman better than Robert Mueller? Guys, again, I'm just sharing this with you. Is this why Trump posted that? He had to get really blunt. And then this is really the pathetic one. The subject is, haha, Mueller arranged the murder of Seth Rich. Seth Rich was a good guy. Seth Rich didn't like what he was seeing in the Hillary camp, goes over and just gives the information. He ends up getting assassinated for getting the information to the powers that be that were going to expose all of this. And they went ahead and they're laughing at this. Now, what I don't understand is the fake MAGAs that are out there screaming at Trump, why, you could be nicer. Why weren't they screaming at this? I went ahead and just did a little, because I like to lurk. I was looking at a little bit of, and I was like, is there anything that this particular account, which is a really big account, posted on this email, this information? No. And then President Trump puts out that one post and everyone's all screaming up and down about it. My point is that we are warriors fighting in a battle. President Trump he really got just thrown into something, and they weren't doing anything. And President Trump, that was his first term. He had to learn how the bureaucrats work. And was he bringing Mueller in? And people were saying he talked to him privately. He couldn't be an FBI director because he already served a term. So what's he talking about? And Mueller, the only dirt Mueller could find is on Obama and his cronies, which I'll get to in just a moment. Trump posted an article about the lies of Mueller and his criminal gang. All right, so you can read that. It's a pretty good article. But this is where you really get a little suspect here, is when you got Loser Barry who's saying Bob Mueller is one of the finest directors in the history of FBI, transforming the Bureau of 9/11 and saving countless lives. No, he didn't. But back to his post. But it was his relentless commitment to the rule of law, his unwavering belief in our bedrock values, blah, blah, blah. Big Mike and Michelle and I send condolences to Bob's family and everyone who knew and admired him. Okay, now, Molly Hemingway, a conservative reporter, says far and away the worst and most vile presidential comment today on a man who was the head of a horrific operation to destroy countless lives, overturn a presidential election, and obliterate any trusts whatsoever in federal government. Okay, so we are tired of all of this, but we were listening to this, and back then, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Okay, and then President Trump posted this. It's a meme, and it's a meme by this account, Crazy Cat Rescuer. Mueller, it's a meme that says, Mueller, I tried to find dirt on Trump, but everything led back to you. He's pointing at Barack Obama and Hillary. All right, so Trump is sending messages very loudly. Now, I'm just going to go ahead. I know many of you are saying, still, I didn't like that message, Santa. Let me just share a couple of verses here about what the Bible says about the fate of our enemies. Psalms 37:20, but the wicked and enemies of the Lord will perish like the glory of the fields. They will vanish like smoke and will fade away. Psalms 92:9, for surely your enemies, O Lord, surely your enemies will perish. All evildoers will be scattered. So President Trump, he's just going out there and he's just speaking what is on his mind, but he put it in a truth post. But did he do that for a reason? Is he finding out a little bit more? Is he doing another one of those? Anyway, you decide. So we were so used to the abuse of the dirty politicians, how they just turned a blind eye to crimes, because they were one themselves. They were all criminals, can't investigate criminals, but we were used to the dirty politicians, the dirty groups, dirty thugs, dirty illegals, and more, constantly getting away with their crimes. They put a hit on Seth Rich and arrested Tina Peters, an elderly woman speaking about election fraud and interference, is still rotting in jail and her health is failing, and Trump is constantly posting free Tina Peters. They censored you and us, and we kept sharing the truth. We couldn't get any traction prior to the public release, which is we're getting now. But the dirty media, for example, they were all connected to high-ranking officials, so we didn't really have a chance, right? But we had the dirty media, the dirty politicians at all levels, dirty government leaders working against you and the people. An example is Andrea Mitchell. She was married to Alan Greenspan, and Alan Greenspan was all about the central banks and the Federal Reserve because it was lining his pockets along with the pockets of many other people that were all aligned with that Federal Reserve. So back to Mueller. Micah 4_13 posted this, a Charlie Kirk post. Hillary Clinton destroyed phones with hammers and wiped her email server. Lois Lerner lost 24,000 emails. Bob Mueller and his team accidentally wiped 31 phones before an investigation, and these are the same people constantly accusing Trump of a cover-up. But not only did Mueller wipe those phones, he couldn't find any dirt on Trump, and he only found dirt on the swamp. But what he didn't do is once he found the dirt, he didn't recommend prosecution for any of the swamp buddies except for that one dude that I talked about 10 minutes ago. So it tells you how dirty that swamp was, right? During the middle of this investigation, again, President Trump, bold move, he dropped some envelopes during the George Bush Sr. Funeral. This caught the swamp really by surprise. This caught the minions by surprise because they thought they were untouchable since Mueller was the special prosecutor doing the investigation. They thought that Mueller would find dirt on Trump, but they didn't. They thought that Obama meddling in the middle of Mueller's investigation would also help, but it didn't work. Remember this, the envelopes, please. I'm going to just go ahead and play this, guys. It's a 2-minute clip on those swamp people at the funeral receiving envelopes. So many of us ask, what's in the envelopes? What's in the envelopes? Again, this is a Q post actually just a week after the funeral. What were in the envelopes? And it's our Q's response is our promise to counter. Okay, that was the only thing. It was a little vague, a little ambiguous. Some people were saying that they were showing another one, but I haven't been able to get that from the Trump team. So, or any other like Q or other posts. So I'm just gonna stick with this. It was their counter to their promise to counter. Well, what happened after the Mueller investigation? The big old Zippo nada, right? So that didn't work. Mueller investigation, special counsel investigation didn't work. It was a Russian hoax investigation. Who ended up becoming guilty of that Russian hoax? Loser Barry. Tulsi Gabbard, last year, she talks about the Russian hoax, the treasonous conspiracy that was Obama and Brennan and Clapper and Comey. They were all involved in that treasonous conspiracy. So that's what happened with the Russian hoax. So they tried the Russian hoax investigation and it really backfired on them. Here it is, 9 years later, it comes out as Tulsi Gabbard saying it was Obama. Then remember back in 2019, 2020, they tried to impeach Trump twice and he was acquitted both times. They didn't have anything on him. They had made falsehoods on him. They tried to do everything to get him out of the picture, right? Get him impeached out of the way because they had to keep running with their dirty criminal acts. And we're seeing those criminal acts now since Trump came back. They locked us up during the 2020 COVID mandates virus time because they were trying to steal another election. So they tried to impeach him. It didn't work. They tried to go ahead and roll out the COVID scam, man-made virus, and it was purposely, intentionally released to the public in order. And then what happened? That didn't work. So they went ahead and did the vax mandates. That didn't work. President Trump was trying to help along the way. He was offering EIDL loans for even people that were small business owners, didn't have employees. He was giving them EIDL loans and PPP loans. Okay, so some people got busted for the fraud in that, but a lot of people really benefited from that, from the PPP loans. He was helping along the way. So let's not forget about that, because some people are saying, well, they're expecting stuff coming from Trump. Trump doesn't work that way. He's going to make you work for it, right? So I just want you to remind you that that's what Trump did for us. They illegally raided his home and planted evidence to frame him. I'm trying to go in sequence, guys, but Trump calls for the arrest of Jack Smith for the evidence tampering. That's 10 years in jail, guys. Okay, so again, nothing's happened here, but again, that's what the results were. They tried to prosecute Trump through Fannie Willis and the false charges, through the Letitia James, and now she's under investigation. But that fraud fine that she was fighting on behalf of the banks, and the big banks say, hey, Trump was a great customer. Trump didn't do anything wrong. But the court, their dirty court, found Trump, and then the appeals court said, Trump is innocent. So he gets that fine that he was supposed to pay, got wiped out. Alvin Bragg, his case, nuh-uh. So they were trying everything to get Trump to silence him. Again, they didn't want him back. They tried to take his life away more than once, right? So at the rally, how they shot at him. And then again, how this dude right here, he was attempting to assassinate Trump on a golf course. And then he ends up serving a life in prison forever. Bye-bye. Goodbye, Ryan Routh. So all of this could have been avoided had Mueller done his job, is really what it boils down to. As the FBI director and a special prosecutor, he just turned a blind eye to everything. And if people were thinking that Mueller, Cheney, Rumsfeld, No Name, Rothschild, Lizzie, all of them got away easy, Lizzie, I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth, and I'm talking all the layers, guys. Well, they were already dealt with. President Trump, earlier this year at Davos, he said this: everyone was perfectly executed. Listen to this.
Says, we did a lot. I did a lot of big things, all perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed. Everyone was perfectly executed. Somebody told me that, a military expert told me, sir, everything you've done has been perfectly executed. I said, I know.
If that wasn't a sign, it was it wasn't even a comm, it was a message. Comms are usually, he drops hints and we have to go do our digging. This one here is, he says, everyone was perfectly executed. He was letting the world know they've been dealt with. If you are new to this movement, you are probably thinking, well, why can't Trump just go out and say it? Can you imagine the mass chaos that would happen if he did, and if it came directly from him? So he saying it in this form is a way to let us anons and surfers know they've all been dealt with. We're just watching out now. We're watching things come out publicly, right? Then we have President Trump coming out swinging in 2025. Okay, he's not backing down. He's not the same president that came out in 2017. He's one that says showing no mercy to his enemies. The weak Trump supporters are upset, right? He's fighting like heck. He needs to release his own opinion in a truth post, because he's a warrior, right? Again, President Trump, he posted this back in 2013 when he was businessman Trump. No mercy to terrorists. And that back then, he was a businessman, so he could say what he really wanted. And again, his post again on, this is on the death of Iran. Now, this is interesting. Now with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent. The greatest enemy America has is the radical left. Is he saying, that's it, we're ready, right? He's now the target is the radical left. Let Trump just do his job, because he's saving lives, saving humanity. He's doing it, saving nations, saving the people of those nations. That's the humanity part. He's doing it one tweet at a time. This is somebody who came out, and she was very passionate about her support for President Trump. I'm just playing a part of this clip where she's just saying, let him do his job. And I'm going to add to that how he says it, how he does it. He's a man on a mission. When you're down the final push, we're in this 10-year football game, guys, at the 1-yard line still. fighting, and he's going to fight like heck, right? Because he's got a lot of work to get done. So if he's going to be focusing on the dirty Democrats, just let him roll. What else is he going to truth post, right? We can't get upset about a truth post. We need to get focused on his mission. Please, my opinion only. You decide. Listen to what she says.
And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be standing up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Back up off of him. And Grandma said it.
And he is just getting started again. He's just getting warmed up. He's not a perfect man, but he's the perfect man to save America and the world. And he's lived his entire life to do exactly this. My point in this whole podcast is that let him do what he needs to do, how he does it. We may not always agree. Good friendships. Think about your good friends. You didn't always agree with each other. Think about relationships. You don't always agree with each other, but you understand each other a little bit more, right? And then you end up building a stronger relationship, friendship, from all of that. Let Trump just do what he's doing. He's a man on a mission, and he's going down the final stretch. We've got many, many bigger things coming into play. I wanted to give you highlights on Bob Mueller because I've really never done a podcast on Bob Mueller. So I wanted to cover all the things from the digs and the information I've been saving for years, and now it's finally come out. But remember, all things are going to point to Obama. So as we get closer and closer to the Obama, it's going to get a little harsher and a little bumpy, but we all know that the end result is going to be ultimately that he is saving the world, and we are all going to be unified as one big world with our Lord God, celebrating together. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Have yourselves a very beautiful day, afternoon, evening, and I will have another show very soon. Aloha.